like, God, I ain't where I want to be. And he was like, you stop being a victim. I said, what you mean a victim? Well, it ain't my fault my mom got pregnant at 17. It ain't my fault my daddy wasn't there. It ain't my fault they couldn't get along. It ain't my fault. He said, boy, you grown. You ain't 10 no more. The decisions you make right now is up to you. You crying about something that happened to you when you was a kid. You ain't even no kid no more. You a grown man. Take full ownership. The stupid stuff you doing, your parents didn't make you play no video games. And what you crying about? So what your daddy wasn't there? Your mama ended up getting married. What you crying about? He went to work every day. He never beat you. He never abused you. Your mama did the best she knew how to do. What you crying about? You grew up in a house. What you crying about? You was never sexually assaulted. What you crying about? Did somebody beat your butt because you did something you wasn't supposed to do? What you crying about? Nobody just came home and started whipping you. Man up. I went home, was like, God, why I ain't making $50? He said, because you watching the World Series, because you watching the NBA Finals, because you watching football and you watching 3 games. You watching the 1 o'clock game, the 4:30 game, the 8 p.m. game, and then you watch ESPN to rewatch everything you watched. That's why you ain't successful. You watching LeBron make his dreams become a reality. You're watching the Black Mamba make his dreams become reality. If you put the same time LeBron put in, and I started studying, and I realized as an African-American male, I need to get a master's degree and a PhD in order to do what I'm doing. And guess what? I had to get up even though it was hard, and I had to take ownership of my life, take ownership of my time, take ownership of my day. You got a phone and you're not learning the second language, that's your fault. You got a phone and you don't know how to do calculus, that's your fault. You got a cell phone, a smartphone, you can go on the internet, and all you're doing is being social on it, while Zuckerberg is making billions of dollars on it. Showtime. Listen to me, one more thing, but I'll leave you with this. It's time to take ownership. You want your clothes washed? Mama, make the boy wash his clothes. Teach him how to separate the colors from the white. Mama, let your boy cook. Teach him how to cook. Let him take ownership. Make him go grocery shopping. He said, well, he don't know how to cook like me. Give him at least a day then. Give him 2 days. Take ownership. Teach him how to change the oil. Make him put gas in the car. Ownership. I'm pissed because you should have been doing this in the first place. But now somebody got to tell you they're going to whip you or they're going to disrespect you in order for you to do. Take ownership. If you don't get all A's in the class, do it. You don't need nobody to give you $50, $100, no pair of shoes, take you on no trip. You a grown man. Do it because you can. Do it because our ancestors couldn't. My man at the University of Michigan, do you understand 100 years ago, those Africans that were enslaved could have went to U of M and murdered, could have went to Princeton and Harvard and Yale, but it was illegal for a black man or a black woman to read. They would lynch you if you got caught learning. And here you are with the opportunity and you ain't gonna do it. Shit. Don't you ever say you don't have something because of what somebody's doing. So I need you to take ownership.
And it was like the 5th grade, and I was ready to start learning to play ball, and I remember my grandparents, they went and paid and got this piece of concrete poured, and I got this basketball goal, right? And it wasn't a gorilla goal, it wasn't anything nice, we didn't have a lot of money, but we got this telephone pole stuck in the ground, right? And I had an old jankety basketball goal and a rim. And I remember I walked out on that court as a kid, and as I walked out onto that court with the kid, my dad, he stood between me and the basket and he said, Nate, listen, I want to teach you what check is, and we checked up. He said, now your job and your goal is to put that ball in that goal. And I remember I got the ball, man, I didn't know what I was doing, I was a kid, right? He didn't let me make one basket. He said, listen, and he looked at me and he looked at my mom and he said, my son is never probably going to be the most talented. He's probably never going to be the most gifted at playing basketball. And when he goes out in life, he's probably never going to be the most talented and the most gifted at anything that he goes after. There's always going to probably be somebody that's a little more quick, a little more witty, a little bit more smart, a little bit more advanced. But you know what my son, and I remember he looked at me and my mom, he said, you know what my son can learn to control about him? He can learn to refuse to quit. He can learn to see an obstacle and an object in front of him, and he can at all costs see the problem and figure out how to get around it. He can control how hard he works. He can control how much he refuses to let any opposition, any object in front of him and his goal stand in his way. And so I'm not going to give my son nothing. He's going to learn to see the problem and to figure out how to outwork it. I know many of us, some of us, we feel broken. We feel like we've come from environments of like, how could we change? Our home life isn't the greatest. We're dealing with being labeled and being identified from those around us. We're battling the pressures, and we fed the bear, and we've been marked and been identified from teachers and peers. And sometimes some of us, we don't feel like even on our own, our self-esteem and our self-value is worth anything. And we put on all of these masks, right? And I understand what we battle with and what we're dealing with in middle school and high school and college and adults just life. We struggle with really beginning to find and to believe in who we are. And maybe we feel like we've came from too tough of an environment. I had every reason when I went to prison at 23 to say, you know what? Life is too tough and I just give up. I want you to understand, just like it was me when I was in prison, I began to believe that regardless of my circumstance, regardless of what I had been through, regardless of the poor choices I had made in the past, it didn't have to be, it didn't have to become my reality and who I was today. That if I wanted to change something about me, if I wanted to begin to rise up and to chase down the dreams and the goals and the better me tomorrow, I could, but I would have to begin. I would have to begin, first off, stop making excuses and blaming everybody else for my struggles. I'm telling you, in this room right now, there's not one teacher, there's not a parent, there's not an administrator, there's not one speaker, there's not a friend, there's not a peer that can keep you and that can stop you from overcoming and chasing down and becoming what you genuinely, truly want to become. It's like when my dad was standing in front of me, right? And I had the ball, and here was the basketball goal, and my dad was the obstacle and the object keeping me from achieving my task and my dream. Many of us feel like right now there's a mountain in front of you that seems immovable. Many of you seem right now there's an object and a situation from your past and your journey that just seems like it's too tough. But I'm telling you, the power of good choices, the power of hard work, tenacity, refusing to quit, refusing to say I can't or I won't and I give up and I quit, but beginning to say and to really believe I can, I must, I will, I refuse, I won't be defeated. Nothing in front of me is going to stop because I can control me. I can control the controllable, and that's how hard I work. That's my desire to refuse to quit no matter what. I will not give up until I achieve my dream.
When I'm tired or worn out or just basically sick of the grind, what do I do on those days? I go anyways. I get it done, even if I'm just going through the motions. I go through the motions. I don't really want to work out. I work out. I really don't want to hammer on a project. I hammer on the project. Don't really want to get up and get out of bed. I get up and get out of bed. Now, these could be signals that you need some time off. And those signals might be right. They could be correct. But don't take today off. Not today. Wait until tomorrow. Don't give in to the immediate gratification that is whispering in your ear. Shut that down. Do not listen to that little voice. Instead, go through the motions. Lift the weights, sprint the hill, work on the project, get out of bed. Now, as an overall rule, I do not like procrastination. You need to get things done.